guys, welcome to my channel. I am flight attendant Jojo and I am a flight attendant for a US carrier. I have some time off, so what better thing to do than quarantine in Sydney for 2 weeks? The deal is my husband is Australian and he was my ticket into this beautiful hotel for 2 weeks. We are currently here in Sydney, Australia, quarantining, doing the 14-day quarantine, and I'm going to give you all the details of how we got here and all of the hotel quarantine details. By the end of this, you should feel very set and secure what your experience in the Sydney hotel will be like. Not saying that you're going to get the same hotel, and I hope you don't get the same hotel as us. Not that it's the worst, but there are certainly better ones. It's at random. Good luck. Firstly, you're going to want to make sure that you have a flight booked, and the likelihood of your flight canceling is very high. From what we heard from the people on the bus is that they had their flight cancel and rebook multiple times, and they got rebooked for dates way later than they wanted to arrive in Australia, so they ended up booking with other airlines. That would sadly be due to the passenger cap that they put on the flights coming into Australia, because only a certain amount of people can arrive into Sydney a week. Now, if you're not Australian, you're gonna have to get a visa, and not just the visa, you're gonna have to get approval from Border Protection to be able to get in, and the gate agent will call to make sure that you're allowed into Australia before letting you through TSA. There is a COVID declaration form that you have to fill out 72 hours prior to boarding your plane, and you have to get a COVID test 72 hours before boarding, which, don't quote me on the 72 hours for the COVID test. It's either before your first flight or before your actual Australia flight. And from my experience, we flew from LAX to Sydney. After your very long journey, because I'm sure it wasn't as easy as mine from LA to Sydney, you then get off the plane, and if you've ever been to Sydney before, you don't use the touch screens when going through customs. You actually just wait in line, and you end up talking to doctors and nurses. You get your temperature taken right away, and it's only the people that were on your flight in that area with the doctors, nurses, and police. They'll ask you how you're feeling, and then you will be escorted to customs, where then you will talk face to face with an officer. You are not going through and not talking to anyone. Sometimes you'll talk to one person, and you might even talk to two people before being able to collect your bags. At that point, the bags are already waiting there for you because it's such a quick process and there was hardly anyone on the flight. As you leave customs, you then meet up with the military, and they escort you to a bus. They have two separate buses, one for families and then one for singles and couples. We ended up waiting on the bus for about 2 hours, so certainly make sure you go to the bathroom before you get off of the airplane, because I didn't really see any other opportunities to do that, and that you eat probably, because it was a long time after they served breakfast to the time we got to our hotel room and had lunch. The bus ended up being escorted by police to the random hotel that we had no say. We didn't even know where the bus driver was going or anything. Someone on the bus was actually looking up on Google Maps like which directions we were going, and was being hopeful which hotel we would end up at. Once the bus driver parked, the military got on, and they were calling people off, maybe one or two at a time, to then check into their hotel room. I think you could have a smoke break one time before, and the police wait around the bus. So it's kind of interesting seeing all the pedestrians walking around and your bus is just surrounded by police and military. The military take your bags off of the bus and they bring it to the hotel lobby. You actually don't even have to touch your bags at all until you're in your room. The military will bring it all the way to your room. We were the last people off the bus. If you sit in the back of the bus, it's pretty much how it goes, like people in the front all the way to the back. So once we finally got off the bus, I think we had been on the bus for a total of 3+ hours after getting off of the plane. And once we got into the hotel lobby, we spoke with the hotel manager and the police. So the police are actually the ones that check you into your room. The hotel manager just greets you and gives you a welcome packet. The police will ask you what you plan on doing once you leave and where you're going and how you are going to get there. When we were on the bus, one of the military said that you could put in requests for what kind of room you wanted. That is not the case when we got in there. They just handed us a sheet of paper with our room number on it and said this was our room. The military ended up getting in the elevator with us and took us to our room, said this is the last time you'll be opening the door. Like, if we close the door, you'd be locked out of your room. You don't have a room key, nothing like that. We have been allowed to open our door to get our meals, but that is the only time we have opened our door in the past 2 weeks. Technically, it's 15 days because the day you arrive, it doesn't count. The 2-week quarantine starts the day after that, but you can leave on the last day early in the morning if your flight got in early, or if it came in later in the afternoon, you do have to wait till the afternoon to leave the hotel. The details is that they bring 3 meals a day to your hotel room. At our hotel, we do not get a say at all on what the meal is, except for that I got to put in that I have a gluten-free preference on my meals. Our hotel, I've seen other hotels that you can like order meals on the TV and such. They did have a QR code when we got in here to be able to pick your meal, and they said it doesn't work anymore, so it must have changed over the year that there is no preference anymore, at least at this hotel. They have a cafe, but it's only for coffee, and then they have like, I don't know, gas station snacks. That's a very small variety and it's very overpriced. There's also wine and beer. You are not allowed to have liquor sent to your room, and you only get 1 wine bottle and 6 beers per person per day. Now that gets on to, you can have food delivered, you can have grocery stores delivered, you can have things mailed to your room. So we've done that multiple times a day. What we did do is order from the grocery store. I completely forgot any card games, books. Don't know why I did that, but we did order some card games from the grocery store. For instance, we just ordered some Nando's. This is gonna be our dinner. Because you do not get a say on what you eat, you don't get to have necessarily a preference, and we eat a lot of protein, and there has not been a lot of protein in our meals. That, my suggestion, if you do have to come in quarantine, bring vitamin D pills, because certainly we have a massive lack of sunlight and sun in general. So if you have access to those, I suggest that you bring them to Australia. Probably wondering about cost. This is out of your own pocket. I believe at the beginning, Australia was paying for the quarantine, but not anymore. It's a base fee of $3,000, $1,000 for an adult extra and $500 extra per kid. I think you can get Australian assistance, but that just depends. The price does not change depending on whether you stay at a 3, 4, 5-star hotel, depending on your meals, nothing like that. Whether you have a balcony or not, it's all the same fee. On the last day, that's when you pay your fee. As you're leaving, the police will check you out of your hotel. We're on our second to last day. They've called to ask us what time we're leaving so that the military will come up, grab our bags, and escort us out of the hotel. Once we've left our room, we are not allowed to return at all. You do get 30 days to pay it. You can pay it in increments or you can pay it in a lump sum. While I was filming this video, we actually did get a delivery to our room, and they knock on your door, they say delivery or breakfast or dinner, whatever, and then they walk away. You're supposed to wait a minute or two, put on your face mask, open your door, grab it, and there's a guard waiting at the end of the hallway, so they are watching you. And that's the only time you will see other life in the next 2 weeks. Unless you have a window, which we can see down to a coffee shop. I have had someone wait at the end of the hallway after they delivered to wave to me, which I thought that was the nicest thing. Also, your neighbors might open their door at the same exact time. Only once has that happened with the neighbor right across from us have we opened the door at the same time. But I have seen other neighbors down the hall open their door and you just kind of stare at them. Now, going into my personal experience of quarantining, I tried not to think about it before I left. Clearly, I didn't think about it enough because I did not remember to bring any of my cards or games or books. The hardest part of this for me was not getting approved to get into Australia, not checking into the hotel room, anything like that. It was finally getting into the hotel room and knowing you were here for 15 days and the first day didn't even count. So a lot of calming tea is very helpful, and anything that brings you comfort, make sure to bring it. I brought my favorite chips and they lasted me the first 4 days, and trying not to think about the days that we had left. For the first week, I didn't even talk about the days unless it was in my YouTube videos. And if you haven't seen, I did do a 2-week quarantine series I filmed and posted every single day of this quarantine. So if you are curious even more about the details and the experience, go check that out. A lot of people say the midway point was the hardest. I think the midway point is when we celebrated the most, but it is the last few days. We don't have a window that opens. We don't have a balcony. We like to work out, so we do sweat in this room. Being in the same room for 2 weeks, but there's not great circulation in this room, it is getting very, very, very gross, and we are really ready to leave. I think the first week I was very intentional about not thinking about leaving and getting a daily routine down to help ease my anxiety. But the last week I've just thrown it all to the wind. You've kind of gotten more of a routine, but you lose the determination knowing that this could be a long time. You're on the we're almost out of here and getting very antsy. Even though it sounds like the last week has been harder, the first few days were the hardest, knowing that this was the longest stretch. So trying to keep calm and just getting in your own zone instead of thinking about the fact that you're in a room. It kind of feels like a bear that hibernates, like being on the lowest energy possible, thinking as minimally as possible, because you really don't want to be thinking about the fact that you're stuck in a room and not allowed to leave, because I think you'd go slightly insane. I really suggest that you budget a little bit extra to get your own food, and I know the whole process between tests, plane flights, the quarantine, it is ridiculously expensive, but having the ability to have a say over your food, and they only gave us 2 water bottles a day. I don't know, in Australia, I'm sure you can drink any tap, it's fine. In the US, you can't necessarily do that. So if you have a way to purify your water, maybe bringing a purifying water bottle, that would be a big thing. You don't get to ask for bells and whistles in any sense. They might bring up weights to your room if your hotel has them. I know that there are some places in Australia that will rent you a cycling bike and they bring it to your room. We didn't do that because we just ended up doing workout videos, but it is bare minimum in here, and if you are gonna have to do this, best of luck to you. I did bring a lot of sleeping pills and bubble baths to get through this all. And if there's anything that you can work on that's probably gotten us through most of our days, is just focusing and grinding at work. We haven't really had a problem with neighbors. I'm probably the annoying neighbor, even though I know there are people on the sides of us, and someone just came in maybe 2 days ago above us. But I would say that there hasn't been any noise complaints. No one's walking through the hallways, so it is a peaceful time if you can set the vibe for that in your room. I hope this was really helpful for you if you do end up having to quarantine for 2 weeks. Doesn't matter where it is. It could be Australia or another country. If you're not subscribed to my channel, I have a lot of travel videos. Feel free to smash that subscribe button and bell notification, because I do go live as often as possible. I hope you could take from my experience and it will benefit you and your experience in quarantining, or if you're just curious how quarantining went. Thanks for watching this video, you guys, and I will see you later. Bye!